Alright, folks. Today I got an interesting couple of stories to tell you about. Uh, I think we're gonna have a good time here on Soothing World Editor. So I'm just launching up a piece of technology here that'll take a moment. My external disk drive that I've established and set up and connected is starting to spin up and activate as we enter a little time portal into the world editor where it all began. So hope you just take a moment here and wait along with me. You can see Reign of Chaos, Warcraft 3 World Editor. It has been a long time, but I happened to find a disc. Actually, I could start telling you this story. It's pretty interesting. Um, on the holidays last Christmas, I happened to come across on the shelf of visiting my parents, and there was on this shelf there was a disc, and we looked at the disc and noticed it said Warcraft, but it wasn't any of the official Warcraft discs. It was actually the Warcraft demo disc that we seem to have obtained back in the year 2002 and left on the shelf since then. I'm not really sure we had ever played it because it was Macintosh only, and only for very old Macintosh computers, which we didn't have anymore. But when I found this disc, I thought that was very curious, right? We have this potentially some kind of Warcraft demo. I don't know what's in it, but yeah, I sort of enjoy its various old Warcraft technologies, trying to find things, trying to see, what are the Easter eggs, the things that exist in there. And I thought, well, why don't I try to dig through it? So I downloaded an MPQ editor on a Linux computer because I didn't have a Windows computer ready for me at the time while I was hanging out there. So I kicked off this MPQ editor in Linux, and we got, Linux MPQ editing going, and I pointed it at this Mac-only executable, and opened up the Mac-only executable, and sure enough, what came out of it, to my surprise, was all of the files needed to play the game, including on Windows. So then I was sitting here on this Linux computer and realized that I had all the files necessary to play basically a demo version of Warcraft 3, which seemed really interesting, right? But included also an installer application. So having found all this and looking like it might be something I could get to a point where I could actually play it, right? It had a War 3 MPQ in it of some sort, some form that was clearly trimmed down. It was only about 120 megabytes, and so it wasn't actually the entire Warcraft 3 game, but it was something, right? So I took that, and knowing it was Linux and that I had a Linux server running in my apartment very far away, I beamed it up through the internet one evening while I was still visiting my parents and sent that to my apartment so that when I would get home, I knew I would eventually stumble across where I had left myself this file that was a replica of this data from this disk that we found in my parents' house. So I kicked that off yesterday night, having found it again after these months from the holidays when I sort of forgot about it. And playing through it, I came to remember, and some of you may know this, that the Warcraft 3 demo campaign was something that I believe is not included with Reign of Chaos. This actually contained campaign missions created by Blizzard that are not a part of your standard Warcraft installation or game. So to try to help with that, right, Blizzard realized that some of their players were missing out on things. So when they released the Frozen Throne expansion, at that time, they came to realize that many players had not played this demo campaign. So if you notice in the Frozen Throne expansion, there's a campaign included called Demo Campaign that's not the Rexxar campaign, right? That they stuck in there because it was originally its own separate, entirely separate applications that was, separate from Warcraft 3 and Warcraft 3: The Frozen Throne. So they put that in, and they put it in with their campaign editor. So it's sort of a slightly different format than this sort of interesting just executable. It's a standalone executable that plays the demo campaign that I found. But so I played through the demo campaign on this standalone executable, and to some extent, I think it shows several default settings that I would not have thought to choose, like engaging the ambient sounds and the music at just the right volume. And it was really interesting for me because although it was at the 4:3 resolution, this demo campaign of Warcraft 3 was actually incredibly fun in my opinion. Just, it was a short 5 or 6 mission. It begins with Rexxar saving Thrall, the same 2 or 3 missions that you find if you just click on the standard Reign of Chaos. But I believe, and I could be wrong here, that if I run my modern patch 130 client, well, let's give it a little shot here just to see. What is this? Reign of Chaos. there you have it. The Reign of Chaos. Indeed. That wasn't quite what I was looking for, but it was interesting. Alright, well anyway, if I go over here, play this prologue campaign, what I'm looking for, I guess we gotta skip the cinematics. I don't know, that's probably gonna break my video recording. What I'm looking here is, get to this mission, right? We're here as Thrall. If I quit back out of this, thank you, Thrall. This only has, how many missions does this have? Doesn't this only have 2 missions? Anyway, it's the same campaign that we see right here, but it was extended to have like 6 or so missions that, as far as I see, are not at all present in this Reign of Chaos here. So it was very interesting to me, right, to have this. This is a modified patch 130 client. That's why it has a different background. I just forgot that I had a mod running. Essentially, right, it was an extension of the initial prologue campaign that had these extra missions in it. And it was short, right? You know, a single evening yesterday evening, but it was very, very fun. I really kind of enjoyed just encountering this experience to do that. So, thinking about that, I just thought, you know, why don't I try to install the next closest thing to that? It would actually be a full-fledged game. So I thought, well, why don't I reinstall the Reign of Chaos game as it existed, like the original Reign of Chaos. So for those of you who have been watching here, you may notice that I am actually live in the original Reign of Chaos world editor. This is not the Frozen Throne world editor. This is the absolute Reign of Chaos, which comes with some really interesting caveats. Namely, you only have 3 editors, or I guess 4 editors, right? Terrain editor, trigger editor, sound editor, and unit editor. There's absolutely no AI editors, campaign editors. There's not an import. Excuse me. There's not an import manager, right? I can't put custom model files into this. Just like I can't make any custom abilities. We do have items here in the unit editor, but it's just a unit editor, right? And that's all it does. And also, many units have fields that other units don't. For example, the peasant has abilities because he needs to be able to repair, but the knight doesn't have any abilities, so he doesn't have the abilities field. You cannot modify a knight to make a peasant because you can't give him any abilities. I think in just the same way, the peasant probably has like structures built, but I wouldn't be surprised if the knight didn't. I really don't remember. Okay, the knight does. So I guess there are some fields like structures built that all the units would have, but I think there are many fields that not all of the units have, which is a really curious anecdote, right? When you start to realize the way these things originally were, which to some extent I'd forgotten, but when I start to see it, I really do remember it because you know it made the Frozen Throne that much more fantastic. So with that, I thought, well, why don't I pop open the Reign of Chaos world editor and try to do some world editing, you know, as it would have been done back in the day. And this has sure been a fun experience, just messing around with this even a little bit, really just purely because of the nostalgia, right? So you know, I look around it and I realize, you know, what is what I remember and what is not, you know, and it's very interesting to me that the organization of units and these other things is entirely different, right? So if I make a custom unit, and in the unit editor for me, I'm used to doing Control F to go to a unit I want to find. That doesn't work. That's not in this. I'm used to doing Control D to display as raw data so I can use keys to try to enter things more quickly. That's not in this either. Also, I was used to doing Shift Enter so that I can enter values more quickly and without limit. For example, hit points, if you Shift Enter, you can usually do about 1 billion in the Frozen Throne. In this one, the maximum hit point of any unit ever is 500,000, which was really interesting to me because I recall the time when my brother and I used to play this before we got the Frozen Throne, that we figured out how we could modify our editor to increase those limits, which was really fantastic to us, you know, as kids who didn't have any idea how to do that. I've also noticed, and this, I do not know if this is a graphical issue on my particular computer here, or if this is actually the original true way that the Reign of Chaos world editor was, but I don't seem to see the green indicator when I'm drawing terrain on the ground, so I just kind of have to guess where it's going to spawn nearby to my mouse, which is really very interesting and different. I do not particularly, that's one thing I've encountered that I do not particularly remember, and I really have no way of knowing if that's a graphical issue due to my particular computer, or if that's the way the original Reign of Chaos was. So you'll have to forgive me for the many years and for my forgetting of that, but it's just something I don't remember which way it was back in the day. I became so used to, over the years, the green indicator while you draw terrain that was just an obvious difference that struck me the moment I tried to use this. But really, this is just, this has been interesting for me. And so one of the things I thought we would do, once I kind of have a little bit of a map here going, is maybe we could try to recreate the experience that I had one of the first times that I opened up Warcraft 3 World Editor. And what is the first thing that I made in this Reign of Chaos. I'm just curious to see how close of a rendition I can get to the thing that I created as sort of Retera's first, Retera's first day back in the world editor back as a kid. In that first day, to give you a little backstory of sort of who I was and what I had in my mind, I'd played a lot of Age of Empires around that time, right? I was probably, let's see, it would have been 2002, so 2002, I was probably about 8 years old. So I was an 8-year-old, and I'd played some really nice Age of Empires, and with like my brother, I think, and done some stuff like that. And to me, Warcraft 3's ability to give you this editor, which is funny, right? Because I was just talking about how limited this is. This editor that let you enter custom names for units, right? I remember the first time I ever saw my brother use this. He copied. Well, I guess you can't copy. He clicked the new unit button, right? And he made something that looked like the Altar of Elders. But his Altar of Elders was named Pikachu. I remember this. This is what we actually did. And then he went to the castle, and he gave the trained units list of the castle the Pikachu, so that the castle would train Pikachus. And this completely blew my mind when I saw this as a kid. Because you do this, and it means that you can customize the true depths of the tech trees using this application. And for me as a kid, that is how my Warcraft 3 career started, right? It's seeing my brother do that and realizing that we can make this castle train a Pikachu. And I'm not kidding you. That is absolutely that is how it was. And when I saw that, I was amazed. So I think what we're going to do for our first little experience here, let's go ahead and let's put in a castle. And this castle is going to train us a Pikachu. And I'm just going to save this map as we need a good name. I didn't think of one yet, but we'll think of a name here. So I'm just going to go to my Reign of Chaos folder, go to the maps directory right here in program files. Somehow there's maps inside of maps. That's got to be some kind of glitch on accident. I guess I did that. But let me just create this map right here. And what are we going to name it? Let's name it my first inclination was to name it Pikachu Map, but actually I have some ideas to go a little further than that. So let's name this Nostalgia Haven, because we want to try to see all the nostalgia. And I'm gonna go past Pikachu. I'm gonna kind of go through the timeline a little bit here. So first thing we're gonna do, let's save the map. We'll try to test the game. Obviously this is gonna be at a 4:3 resolution, so I'm not exactly sure how that'll come through in my video output, but I would like to think that it will. So hopefully we'll see something. And if not, bear with me. I'll keep giving you a description. Well, I guess you'll see my desktop if it doesn't actually launch, but we'll see what we got here. I know I'm seeing it. I'm seeing that it's starting up here, and here we are. We're in the game. So here we are with this castle, and as you can see, it says Create Altar of Elders. So I'm just going to click that button right now, and we're just going to see.
Off I go then.
I'll walk my peasants over to get us something to do. But as you can see, this is training a Pikachu. It looks like this was before mousing over something in the unit queue would give you its description. So we don't really know what's being trained. This also is before your name was World Edit appears. So instead of World Edit, I'm named Local Player. So I am the local player, and I am training a Pikachu. And this was... You don't really see it until it gets out of the castle, right? Like once the castle trains it, that's when you realize really what's up. So while that happens, let's build ourselves a scout tower. Just kind of give us something a little bit fun to kind of enjoy walking around. Another thing I noticed is this version will make trees transparent so that you can see your units who are hiding behind the tree. It's really kind of a fascinating thing. I'd totally forgotten that ever happened, but yeah, it's just kind of an interesting environmental effect, right? That if my units walk behind a tree, the trees will fade so I can see them. I'd actually be kind of curious if we see that in Reforged, but I don't really know. So it looks like my scout tower's almost done, but more importantly, Pikachu is born. And it looks like now I can train like a Night Elf character. But for me right here, this is the beginning of everything, right? When you realize that you can make a Pikachu mini, that this thing is it's like you're reshaping the world right here. And suddenly I realized I didn't need to play Age of Empires anymore because I could make Pikachu. And so promptly, after seeing my brother show me that, I came across this idea where I said, all right, I'm gonna make something, right? I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna make something. So then was the question of, well, what do I make? So one of the first things I made that I remember, like the first map, was I'd played once or twice with my brother, where I played as the undead race, which I don't remember exactly why, but I think I played like a lich just to kind of see things, and the lich looked really cool, so I was pretty happy with it. So I was like, oh, okay, this game is cool too. Like, not only is it creative and empowering, but it's cool. And I thought, what can I make that's cool to an 8-year-old? And I was like, well, I'm going to make the Well of Death. This is going to be the most epic thing, the Well of Death, that could ever be. And so I made the Well of Death to summon my characters, which looked kind of like a sacrificial pit, as you can see here. But we need a way to get it, and it needs to be. This is the other most important thing for all kid designs. It has to always be bigger and better than the original one. So, for example, here, the Well of Death is going to be really, really big. That's how you know that it's the Well of Death. And what does it do, you might ask? Well, it needs to go. I gotta find units trained in here. Trained units. What it did, as I seem to recall, is I believe it trained Manoroth, which I think was something I found on the list that just seemed like a curious and powerful character, probably because of the green, like whatever that is. I don't know if that's like fire coming out of his mouth there. Anyway, he seemed like he's pretty cool, so we were like, all right, we got to make the Well of Death train Manoroth right here. So let's do that. Let's go in the game. Let's train ourselves a Manoroth if we can. Let's give this a shot. This is the Well of Death. This is how you do it. Got to make something cool, right? I mean, just objectively, like you got to make something cool. Unfortunately, every time I launch this, we got to wait for that disk read. That's a pretty slow disk read, but you know, it's what happens. Here we go. Here's the Well of Death, and look at that. I can make tooltip missing, and he's free. That's great. Glad he's free. I didn't really want to spend my time anyway. So while he's going there, actually, you know what? Despite how old this is, I guess we can probably do Warp 10, can't we? Yeah, we can. Alright, I should have been doing that. Ooh. The game crashed when I trained my Manoroth. I do not know why that is. I don't think that's what happened when I was a kid. I don't know. Does Manoroth crash the game? Let's put a Manoroth. Let's just put one down. Let's see what happens. Does the game crash when I train a Manoroth? I don't know. I don't remember that being the case. So, you know, it is what it is, but we're gonna find a way to have a little bit of fun here anyway. So let's kick it right back off. Let's see. I also love the instantaneous load times. That is right. The game is so small in this version. Load times are literally instantaneous. All right, let me train this Manoroth. I just want to see, why does training Manoroth crash the game? I don't remember that. I really don't remember that. Okay, yeah, apparently the game just crashes if you train Manoroth. That's really interesting. Well, I was probably playing like version 1.02. This is version 1.0. This is just version straight up 0. So it looks like I can't train Manoroth at this thing. Maybe it needed to have like revives dead heroes or something. There was no way that was a field back in these days, was there? I don't really remember. Maybe only an altar can train heroes. Let's try making it train other units. I'm trying to remember what else it would have trained back in the day. I feel like I was thinking it would train Manoroth, but I guess we can't do that. Let's try Archimonde. Honestly, I think it might have also made Archimonde. Like all these characters that just seem like the best. When I would talk to my brother and we see him playing around with this, I'm like, all right, I gotta have the best ones, right? I gotta have Manoroth. So we got a free Manoroth standing there. Let's try giving us an Archimonde. Let's see how that goes. I don't know. I really don't know if it's like I can't train a hero, or like maybe the hero doesn't have a hero icon display. I don't know. I really don't know. Slightly different than I remember. All right, well, let's get this Archimonde. Let's get ourselves an Archimonde here going on. All right, looks like you can't train an Archimonde either. I don't know. This might be a case of bit rot. You know, they say if you keep a file around for 15 years, you reach a point where things start to go wrong in it. And so I could foresee, I mean, maybe like you just can't train a hero from this guy. So let's try making a custom building off of Altar of Darkness. And let's see if this custom Altar of Darkness can make a Manoroth. I don't know. I don't remember why that would be something I couldn't do. I was thinking that by the time I played this game, that was something I could do. But I don't really know. So let's find out here. I'm going to make this altar. And I guess, you know what we could do? We could change the story a little bit, go off the grid, and maybe we'll just make this altar look like... There we go, sacrificial pit. So we'll make this the hero well of death. We'll give it a good name. The heroic well of death, which was probably not actually something that I made back in the day, but if that's a requirement to make it train heroes, I'll let it slide. All right, let's do this. There's the heroic well of death. We're loading it up. Loading it up, up. It's very interesting. It takes a really long time to start up the game, and then when it's running, it takes almost no time at all to actually go in the map. I don't know what kind of caching that's doing, but it's way faster getting into the map than the other ones I have. Oh, look at that! Look at that! The heroic well of that is able to train heroes. Yeah, I guess it must be. It must be the case that only an altar-based building can train heroes. I didn't remember that. Well, I'm not quite sure how this worked when I was a kid, because I really kind of thought that I made this building train Manroth and Archimond. But apparently I am not correct, and that is not what happened. So I probably did something. Maybe it trained zombies. Probably trained zombies. I don't know. Sure. So anyway, we got our first steps. We got our first steps in the world editor. As you can see, this is back when Archimond had a sound set. You know, in the expansions, they got rid of Archimond's sound set because no one cares. And then when I talked about it to the Reforged developers, I told them it's not actually worth it. Yeah. Anyway, it's kind of fun, right? Like, now Archimond has a sound set. And he has the old spell immunity icon before they made it into a Eclipse Moon thingy. Alright, great. This is exactly how it was. This is the real one. So, now that we have this, what I think we need to do is go ahead and start creating what I made after the Well of Death, where I thought, well, if the Well of Death is cool, and it was cool, as you can see, it makes Manroths and Archimonds. What we need to have, then, is we need to have something even cooler than the Well of Death, right? We need to have an entire people of cool things. But one of the first things I thought would be really cool was I thought, well, what if I go to Night Elves, right? Night Elves. And here's their buildings, and here's their special stuff. And I thought, well, what if I make a special guy off of the Corrupted Moonwell? I'm not even sure if I can find the Corrupted Moonwell. Where do they put it these days? Did that even exist? Is this a Frozen Throne memory? Am I jumping the hoop here? I think there was a Corrupted Moon. It would be in Fellwood, right? As a neutral building in Fellwood. Yeah, here we go. Corrupted Moonwell. Okay, so what I did next is I made a Moonwell that I think was called Sheep Pen or something like that. Because I thought, this, the other thing this game has that is absolutely great is this game has really good sheep. So I was like, all right, what we need to do is we need to go to the sheep. I keep thinking I could just click that one. Okay, here we go. Oh, it remembers. It's right here. Yeah. Okay. So we'll make our own sheep, but we gotta keep making more sheep. We gotta have all the right kinds of sheep. So then we gotta have the black sheep. This one it's the color black, and this is where I started realizing you can change the colors. That's amazing. Like I figured that out. I'm like, oh, has to be the black sheep now. And the sheep pen has to make the different kinds of sheep, right? So you gotta go to train units and the sheep pen, and we gotta give it our new kinds of sheep. That's just a requirement. So let's go to neutral custom down here, and we'll just add black sheep, and we'll also add sheep. Yeah, and then that's when I realized there's also flying sheeps. And let's make flying sheeps. That's pretty cool. So there we go. Now I had the sheep pen. So after we got some cool, you got to have some cool down. And so once we have Archimond and Manroth, that's pretty cool. But you got to have the sheep pen in your life, right? I mean, you got to have the sheep pen. That's kind of what I was thinking. So we're gonna put that down over here. We're gonna make some sheeps. We're gonna see how that works. I believe the tooltip says, "Call upon the spirit of sheep to save you," but we'll see if I remember correctly or not. It might just say tooltip missing. That might be the Frozen Throne when they added that. I don't know. I don't think so. I think it says call upon the spirit of sheep to save you. Let's do it. Alright, continue. Yes, invoke the sheep. Call upon the spirit of sheep to save you. Haha, black sheep and a normal sheep. This is where we begin our venture into the true world of Warcraft. So now what we need to do when we've begun to make the sheeps is we need to make the sheeps have like a worker unit that makes all their people, right? So then I said, well, what would that be? What would be the sheep's worker unit? it needs to definitely be made from a sheep, right? But let's make it's the guy who makes all the other guys. So it's like a sheep tree, or maybe like a tree of sheep. Let's make it the tree of sheep. And then we got to find what model does it use? What's a really cool model? And that's when I thought, well, what about this thing has this little flickery orange on it with like a butterfly. That just, it's like the most glows something has, or the more glows something has, the more cool it is. So we're gonna give it that as its little model right there. And then interface icon, it probably needs to match, right? We got to get one of these trees. I don't even remember which one of these trees it used. That might have been this one. So we give it one of these trees. I don't know. This one has more glows on it. This might not be historically accurate. All right. So we're gonna put the one with the most glows on it, and then we're gonna make it say invoke tree of sheep. And then I didn't know as a kid. I was like, what is this tree? Is it gonna be able to summon units? So I think I put in a tree that can't summon. I didn't know how to spell summon, so I just kind of put summon. That stuck around for numerous years in my life. That it was a tree that can't summon. The other thing I figured out, I looked around and I thought, well, what can we do with this tree that's cool? And it's like, how do you know if something's cool, right? So I looked through all these little names. I'm like, what is cool? I'll tell you what's cool. I'll tell you what's really cool. Being invisible. And then my older brother, he's like, no, 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 don't give it invisibility. He's like, dude, give it permanent invisibility because that makes it like more permanently invisible. And so I was like, all right. And by this point, I was starting to learn things because like I think he'd made some stuff, right? He's older, he could really figure out the editor, right? I was just 8 years old, so maybe even 7, probably 7 years old actually. Yeah, I don't know, probably 7. So yeah, probably 7 going on 8. I don't know. So we got that. Now the tree of sheep was invisible, and that's really cool. But the tree of sheep, it needs to build in structures built, right? It needs to build all of our sheep buildings, which actually are going to be pretty hard to find, right? Because we got to go around and find like, okay, well he builds the well of death. For the sake of our story, we're going to build the heroic well of death because I think it's more historically accurate, even though it's not. And then we'll go to neutral, and it's like, all right, but I'll also build a sheep pen. So that was a good start. But then the next thing I thought is we need a sheep base, right? Now I have sheep worker, tree of sheep. But what is my sheep base? And I don't exactly remember why, but I had some idea where I was like, we're just going to base it off of. I think maybe what it was is that I was just clicking through things. I didn't really know what they were. And I was like, why does this one have like swear words? And so I'm talking to my brother. And I'm like, all right, we're going to make new and we're going to make town sheep. But I don't really know what to click on, so it ended up being made off of that one, not off of any kind of town, because they're all buildings, they're all the same, right? So then I'm like, all right, well, this icon needs to be sheep, right? I mean, it's the town of sheep, like, it needs to be a sheep. So we'll give it the icon of sheep. That one's flying sheep. That's fine, sure. So we give it the icon of sheep, and I'm like, all right, well, we also got to give it the model of sheep. So I just click on the first sheep that I see. Boom, sheep. Then I find out, well, that's the flying sheep model, but, you know, I'm a kid. I'm not going to fix that. And then we need to do scaling value, right? Because it needs to be the right size. So for that, I don't know, it was like 3 or 5 or something, right? It was like a big town of sheep. And let's go get that one. Let's go get the big town of sheep right here. Let's do that down here in custom. Here you go, town sheep. Oh, it was 5. It was definitely not 3. It was definitely 5. All right, 5. Here you go. Big town of sheep. Look at that. That is like the real town sheep right there, and it's exactly historically accurate. So then I made town sheep. I'm like, all right, well, this is town sheep. He definitely needs to train not a necromancer and banshee. That's not cool. He needs to train the tree of sheep, right? I mean, that's just common sense. He just needs to train the tree of sheep. So we put that on there, and now we basically already made our own custom civilization. Let's see if it works. Let's give it a spin, give it a test, and we'll see if it works. Give it a spin, give it a test, and see if it works. My disk parser is spinning up heavily over there. It's on its way, I assure you. And loading the map is instantaneous, so here we are. And this guy, this is town sheep at its finest. And it trains a tree of sheep. Oh, this is not historically accurate. Wait a minute. This is not historically accurate. The other thing I figured out how to do with tree of sheep is I was just learning colors. And I was like, how do I make this guy unique, right? He's a tree of sheep. He needs to be like unique colors. I'm like, well, let's try, I don't know. We'll put green in. Oh, this is town sheep. Let me reset that. I'm on town sheep right now. I was like, all right, let's go to tree of sheep. Let's see, neutral. That's a sheep pen. There, the tree of sheep. We're just gonna make him green and red, green and blue be 0. He's gonna be tree of sheep right there. This map is still using just another description. All right, I definitely didn't know what to do about that as a kid, so we're just gonna leave that. So let me just start it off again, and we're gonna see the tree of sheep. I think at this point, my mind as a kid is totally blown because I'm free, right? I can make new things. I don't have to play the other people's things. I can make my own little story, and it's amazing as a kid, right? You free your mind to creativity. You can make all sorts of things. So here we go. Now we have the tree of sheep, and he builds this, but I forgot to make him build town sheep, and that just won't do it. So we need to make him build town sheep. I guess I also need to make the well of death be an altar-based unit, or what am I saying? Have the right icon. Sorry, I was thinking fast and I was talking. So I'm just gonna change this guy's icon to be sacrificial pit. That's what I meant to say because it wasn't correct. So now we're gonna go to the tree of sheep, and he just needs to also build, along with the well of death and the sheep pen. He needs to build this new sheep building that is the town of sheep, obviously. So that was pretty good. And now I had the town of sheep, and I thought, well, why don't I make like more sheep buildings, but what should they be? That's like the really hard question, right? What buildings do you have in this game? Like you have your characters and they're building buildings, but we gotta have like I gotta have some special great buildings. I don't know what those should be. So one of the ones I thought would be really cool would be we'll make Mine of Monsters. It's like a gold mine, but it makes the coolest monsters. So it's like, all right, we're gonna have the Mine of Monsters, and that's gonna be where all the coolest ones come from, is from the Mine of Monsters. So I went to that, and obviously the Tree of Sheep is gonna build me the Mine of Monsters. Like hands down, he needs to do that. So let's give him Mine of Monsters. The other thing that this needs to have in here is that I started realizing pretty quickly as a kid that you have to get resources, and I don't know how to do that. So town sheep is like not. We don't want it to cost any money. That's just harsh. So we're gonna make it cost 1 and 1 because that's a pretty low number. That'll be easy to do. Great. So now I have the Mine of Monsters, and that's a good. I mean, that's a good kind of cool character, right? But the other thing the Mine of Monsters really needs to have is it needs to have the kinds of monsters that come out of it. So then I thought, like, what would that be? And I thought, well, I think it's cool when you have cool magic, right? Like, if you want to decide what kind of character is really cool, it's cool when you have cool magic. So let's go to the undead, to the acolyte, and let's duplicate him because he kind of looks like a robed guy, right? Like a cool wizard. We're gonna make the enchanter off of the acolyte, and he's like the coolest, baddest acolyte. He's probably a lot faster because like he's the enchanter. Look at that. He's like 1,000 speed. Like why not? He's the greatest. But also, since he's the enchanter, he needs to have really cool abilities. So rather than these other abilities, which are really not that cool, he needs to have like all the coolest abilities, maybe from the items. So like you could give him like item inferno and like I don't know what else do you want to give him. I think he could probably have whatever we don't know what it is. Like you look like item command, right? What is that? That sounds pretty cool. Let's give him item command, and then probably like item Doomguard summon sounds pretty good, right? Like some good magic going on there. I don't know. So we gave him some great magics. Um, I'm also not sure this is historically accurate. The Enchanter actually might have been made quite a while later. But, I mean, I was having a lot of fun, really. And I started wondering, so with some of these other things too, right? Like, what exactly could I put that would be cool? So then I thought, what if we take, like, the Tree of Eternity, but we make, like, another, like, tree that could, like, make some sheeps? I'm trying to think, I don't know, what's the best? What was next? I somewhat, to some extent, I forget the ordering. But here's something else I did. I definitely did this. I was like, we gotta have, they have the Temple of the D, but that's swearing. You don't want to have that. So we're gonna have the Temple of the Doomed. So I made the Temple of the Doomed, and it's gonna be purple because purple's cool. So it's a purple Temple of the Doomed, and what it needs to be able to do is it needs to be able to root and uproot, like with root in here, root and uproot. Here we go. Root. I don't remember which one of these it had, but it had some form of root. So yeah, it definitely has like root. Um, Actually, I probably didn't know how to delete those other abilities, so let's not do that. Let's just give it root. All right, root Sure, root. So it was this gray guy who had root on it, and along with root, which is a cool thing. I think it also should fly because, like, why not, right? It's the Temple of the Doom. It should be like a flying cool temple. Have I don't know, like 500 speed or something. Give it some like good turn rates. Great. So that's the Temple of the Doomed, and let's make sure we add that to our build list too. We got to make sure the Mine of Monsters makes enchanters. That's how it should be. So let's make sure this has trained units should be the enchanter because you got to have access to the enchanter. He's cool. And then the Tree of Sheep, which already builds Mine of Monsters, Town Sheep, Sheep Pen. It now should build our newest installment, which would be the Temple of the Doomed right there. Great. So that's I think that's a good step forward. Um, let's try that. Well, actually, before we test it, let's keep going because it seems like there's an overhead on testing. So something else I figured out pretty quickly was that there's this really cool thing called Demon Gate. And I mean, this takes you a little bit as a kid, but once you figure this out and you put this down, it's like, whoa, right? That is the coolest thing. So I saw that and I thought, all right, I need to make my own answer to the Demon Gate. Like, what are my people gonna have? So I was like, all right, here's what we need to have, right? We're gonna have one called Gate of because that's just the coolest. So I made that. I made the Gate of and the Gate of needs to make some really cool characters, like something like Archimon, but like better. So we'll make like our own like Archimon. And what I just learned how to do is if you hold Alt and you type buttons on this thing over here, it'll type special characters sometimes. Like let's see, upside down question mark. And wait, they're starting to come back to me. That one is wrong. It used to be I also knew how to do like a half symbol. I wish I could remember a half symbol. But, yeah, you get some good characters on there, right? And this is the guy, right? I mean, this is the guy right here. And that's his cool name. And I don't remember if that was actually maybe like his unit name or his hero name. I actually don't remember that. We'll just put it as both because, we don't need to be historically accurate. But basically the most important part is he's bigger than Archimon because he needs to be bigger. And he's blue because blue is cool. And I had just learned about invisibility. So it's like, okay, this guy is like the greatest. So he needs to be permanent invisibility too. Like, come on. So there we go. He's like made at the Gate of is Big Blue Archimon. Everybody remembers Big Blue Archimon. So let's go to trained units right here. And this we don't need Fellhound Infernal Doomguard. We're not doing that. We're making Big Blue Archimon. Yet again, I'm trying to make a building train hero. I am doubtful. Perhaps they will not let me do it. But we will push the limits of this engine, and we will find out. I really don't know. We're gonna find out. It's a brave new world here. Let's try it. Let's make the Gate of Let us make the Gate of One of the other things made at the Gate of was there's some other thing. I'm trying to remember how this went down. I think we went to the Night Elf Stormcrow form Druid, and I copied this guy and I called him Birdie. He's a birdie. But Birdie crashed the game. I remember this. So I think if we make him red and we make him maybe attack really slowly, like a really slow speed, like missile speed, projectile speed. Let's make it like really slow. I think it crashes the game. So here you go. This is Birdie, but Birdie is like haunted. Like you had to never make Birdie, or else it was gonna end the game. I remember that. But Birdie comes from Gate of So let's put Birdie at the Gate of which I have to, of course, find down here. There we go. So Gate of is going to also train Birdie. It's important. But never actually do it, right? It's just a joke. It's like one of those ideas. Some ideas, this is a good lesson in creativity. Some ideas don't work out. And when they don't, just don't let them get to you, Just let them be. So let's click test here. I'm kind of curious if... wait, did I put Gate of on... No, did I put Gate of on the... Tree of sheep. Do you build gate of... Ah, yes, he does. Okay, we're good, folks. We're good. We're good. The Tree of sheep makes gate of ah. This is going to be a good game. It's going to be a great game. This will be a great game. As historically accurate as possible. Alright, here we are. We'll invoke that Tree of sheep. Here he is. And he's gonna make the gate. Let's make the gate down here. Oh, it's too far away. Alright, well while we're waiting on our gate, let's make this. Obviously this has to be played with Orb 10. It's just how it is. It's interesting, I have the human build button, but it builds like the undead. I don't really know how that works.
Complete.
Yeah, so basically Temple of the Doom, oh, he untinted himself. That's not very cool. And now he went into the ground. You can't see him anymore. I have no idea why. Alright. That's a little bit different than I remember it, but this one, I might have been a while before I figured this out, right? The idea of a flying unit is a significantly difficult concept for me as a kid. So, I mean, other than like the Uber sheep, that's about as far as I got. So we have the Uber sheep, but let's go ahead and make, what else do we got here? Let's go ahead and make the gate. Oh,
Summoning is complete.
Oh, the summoning's already complete. That's pretty good. Let's make Big Blue Archimon. Come on, don't crash, game. Don't crash. There you go. See, I told you this made Big Blue Archimon. I was wrong about the other one, but this one is accurate. This is how you give Big Blue Archimon, okay? I think it is. I really think it is. He's gonna do one crash over there. So then I think Birdie crashes the game. I don't remember why, but, you know, whatever. Like, Birdie's Birdie. He's just not... He's like one of those things that it's kind of a good idea, but like after you make it, it's like, well, maybe that wasn't really a good idea. I don't know. Oh, it's like instant. Apparently 0 is instantaneous. I'm not sure I knew that. I guess I believe it. That's a little bit different than I think it was back in the day, but you know, it doesn't need to be exactly the same. So there we go. Now we have Big Blue Archimon, and we have Birdie. So we're well on our way. Let's go ahead and build a Mine of Monsters, honestly. Mine of Monsters is up next. We gotta build one. The main source of gold, guys. Look at that right there where it's constructed.
More gold is required.
Apparently I need more gold, though, actually, thinking of main source of gold. So, I have some peasants, right?
More work. Right.
Yeah, let's send them over
Yes,
here.
Lord.
Send them over there. I need somebody who can pick up gold. Does this guy pick up gold? I don't think he does. We'll put him over here just in case. It sure is an interesting temple of the doomed. Are those peasants here yet? Yeah, come on, peasants. So this is where then as a kid you start to learn you just type in greed is good. That's what you do. And then you don't mind the Mine of Monsters because it's like a waste of time. Great, so now we can make the enchanter. The enchanter is great. Oh, he wasn't supposed to build anything, but that's okay.
My fate is sealed.
That was when I started first learning, like,
I
you get these
gladly
item
obey.
abilities. They're just really cool,
My
right?
fate is
You
sealed.
can give somebody an item ability
I
with a cool
gladly
icon.
obey.
And this is where I need enemies, really. Where you can start to, like, use your cool item abilities on stuff.
I bow to your will.
Great. This is how you get cool.
Thy will be done.
That is how you
My
get cool.
fate is
The
sealed.
enchanter.
Here,
The other thing is the enchanter is supposed to shoot
Thy
laser
will
beams,
be
but I didn't
done.
figure that out until the expansion. So, we did that. Yeah, I think we're making great progress. That's about as much as I'm remembering for today. So I think I'll maybe have to leave you here at this point, just because of time. But I think we've had an amazing time, and I'm interested, and I sort of enjoyed showcasing here the circumstances of the Reign of Chaos World Editor, which is more or less the same thing, but a little bit older, you know. So there you go, and I hope you guys have a good one. I was thinking about today how I ought to be talking about how videos are dangerous, right? Like, I don't know if you want to watch the recommended video after this. I don't really recommend that you do, but if I don't, and I don't, the algorithms probably will rate me low. And actually, I don't care, because I'm not really in it for getting viewed. I'm just having fun and figuring this will be a video repository kind of video on YouTube for me to watch in the future. So if you want to make the world a better place, and I really hope you do, I think it's very good if you make anything, right? You spend some time and make anything. I think it doesn't actually matter exactly what you make, but if you exercise the part of your brain regarding making things as opposed to not, I think it's a benefit. So if you want my advice, don't you dare click on a recommended video. Instead, just open up the world editor, and I have a feeling yours might be a little easier to use than mine. But open up the world editor and take a moment and try to make anything, and keep in mind that you can't do it wrong. And for that reason, I think that's why Warcraft needs to be reforged, because it empowers you to make anything, to just dream, let your mind wander, and sort of enjoy the dream as it appears before you. So I hope you have a good night.